Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bourbon Bites Whiskey Reviews with an 80s twist. Today's going to be a little bit different because we are not doing whiskey. Despite the giant glowing sign behind me, we are actually doing a different spirit tonight, one that I'm vaguely familiar with. It's got a huge cult following, especially here in Southern California. So I thought I would pick up three expressions of the exact same brand, winery. Listen, I'm a whiskey pro. I'm not even a whiskey pro. I'm a whiskey drinker, not an Armagnac drinker. But these are all from the same brand of Armagnac. So if you saw the title of this stream, these are Cardinat. You think I'm probably mispronouncing that because I do not speak French. These are Bas Armagnacs, and they're at various age statements. So really excited. We got three different ones, two of which are older than me, which hence the thumbnail. Hope you enjoyed the little bit of filters there. If you saw me on Instagram, we had a lot of fun with those filters. Probably too much fun with the filters, but had a great time. So yeah, I thought I would try something new, explore something different here. These recently went on sale at my local liquor store, K&L Wine and Spirits out here in Southern California. For those who are curious, they have so many other expressions of this same brand. I guess what would you call it? Like an Armagnac house? Domaine du Cardinat is the name of it. So that's they're from the same. I'll just say Domaine. I like the sound of that. But they have so much more to offer. I picked up three to start with, a good range of ages. Like I said, we have the one that I just showed you is the oldest of the bunch. This is a 1984 release, or it was distilled in 1984. 38 years old in oak barrels. And the next one is distilled in 1990, which is 32 years old in oak barrels. Now, those of you that are following me on Discord and stuff know that my birthday was this week. I just turned 31, which means both of those are older than me. And lastly, which is probably where we're actually going to start. I kind of did that backwards. We're going to be starting with a 1995 one that was aged 27 years. So we're going to see the progression of how this new to me spirit, going from 27 years old to 38 years old. Should be a fun journey. I'm looking forward to it. These are all relatively decent priced, at least here in Southern California. I don't know if the Armagnac boom is going to happen next after the bourbon boom, but the oldest one I had, the 1984, was only $109, and it's cask strength. So maybe people just haven't caught on to this. Maybe I'm kind of exposing a little secret here, but it should still be a lot of fun just for you guys. I'm doing it for you guys. I want to say some hellos to some folks here in the chat. Tony is back all the way from Ireland. Tony, I've been following your photos on Instagram. Looks like it was a fantastic trip. Can't wait to hear it. Hopefully I'll see you on the after party hangout. But speaking of which, might as well give a Patreon shout out. If you guys are interested in supporting the show beyond just showing up and saying hello, you can go to patreon.com/bourbonbites and get access to fun things like our after party hangout, which is after every Thursday night live stream. The higher tiers get you access to our private tastings where I send you some samples. We taste through them together. The lower tiers get you access to things like our monthly movie night, which should be coming up here soon. We do a retro 80s movie night. Have not gotten any suggestions yet for this month's movie, so feel free to leave them here in the chat throughout the night. Let us know your suggestions for your favorite 80s movie. We've already watched a lot, but there's a lot we haven't seen. So leave your suggestions, and I'll put a poll up on Patreon after the show, and we'll vote on that monthly movie night. So want to give a shout out to our newest patron, Devin. Devin has been a member of our Discord for quite a while. They've been really active lately, so I'm so excited to see them join our Discord, our Patreon community. Hopefully they can make an appearance tonight. If so, give them a warm welcome. But yes, Devin, if you're watching, thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure having you. I hope you enjoy your trial, which, by the way, there's a free trial, a 30-day trial for my $10 tier, which is the most popular tier on Patreon for me. You get access to the after party, like I said. So if you've been curious and you want to give it a try out, hey, there is that 30-day free trial. So check it out, patreon.com/bourbonbites. All right, enough rambling. James Taylor's here in the chat as well. I assume he's laughing at the thumbnail. Doug, good to see you, Doug. Doug joins us from Taste and Sensibility, another incredible whiskey tuber. The Linux Cat is here. Donnie is one of our original mods. Good to see Donnie. Hopefully you don't mind all the old jokes from my Instagram earlier. Again, check out my story. Zopher is joining us as well with an Armagnac twist. That would have been smarter if I would have done that, but I didn't think that far ahead. Sugar Kitty, you made it. I know you were debating whether or not you can make it this late, but I appreciate you stopping in, even if it's just for a bit. Sugar Kitty is one of our Bite Club members, which is the YouTube membership program here, getting you access to some fun emojis in the chat. So cheers to you, Sugar Kitty, and Sugar Kitty is also a patron as well. So Emily, another incredible mod here on the channel. Good to see you, Emily. Adam Free, another patron. Wow, you guys are showing up tonight. So glad to see you guys explore or be curious about this different spirit. So Sugar Kitty says Armagnac and Cognac both priced respectfully for their age, not like whiskey. That's pretty true. That's pretty true. Emily says we are all proper vintages. Truer words have never been spoken in. Adam says no Armagnac over here, so I just poured some Spanish brandy to enjoy with the stream. Well, pretty close. Pretty close. Oh yeah, Zopher with the side quest. Again, I always forget that. So, if you're curious about what is Armagnac, because let's be real, a lot of us whiskey folks aren't really familiar with cognacs. Armagnacs are a cognac, so they are distilled from wine. They are exclusively from the Armagnac region of France, which is somewhere, I should have put a map or whatever, but it's a region of France. These are particularly, if you look at the label, I believe it's pronounced Bas Armagnacs. So that is actually the northernmost region of Armagnac of France. It's actually the Bas for the fact that they are the lowest altitude. So with wines in particular, altitude and close to sea levelness means a lot. So it just really depends on the temperature fluctuation. It affects the climate, the weather. All of that goes into the different flavor profiles of wine in particular. So these are from the lowest geographical region of the Armagnac region of France. So wow, fun facts there. So Armagnac is apparently a Nancy Fraley favorite. Did not realize that. Oh, that's really cool. I didn't know that. I mean, I trust her palate with everything, so glad to see that. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and get something in our glass. We'll start with the one that's actually younger than me. So that is the 1995 one here. So it's 27 years old. This one comes in at 100 proof, and we're only going to go up in proof. So really excited to see how these do. Let me know what you guys are sipping on. I saw some folks are drinking some brandy in the chat. Maybe you have an Armagnac finished whiskey. I actually pulled one out just in case we finish a bit early. We might do an Armagnac finish just to see how it compares. If we don't get to it, that's fine. It's actually a whiskey I reviewed last week, so it's not a new review by any means, but I thought it might be relevant to taste. All right, so, I was trying to think, like, sometimes I like to pull up, like, a whiskey flavor wheel just to reference while I'm tasting through things. I don't know if there's, like, a specific cognac flavor wheel. He's saying real. Let's see, cognac. Oh, cognac. You know what? I think I might have found one. Oh, they call it Cognac Harmony. Oh, this is fun. I don't know if I can drop a link in the chat, but let me drop this in the chat if you guys want to follow along. This actually has a really fun graphic that shows you the different flavor profiles they find in cognac. That's really cool. I'm gonna open this up as I taste through. They kind of base it on seasons. They have like a spring notes, summer notes, winter notes, and autumn notes. That's kind of fun. I love the graphic design here, by the way. Again, I just Googled this just now, but want to have something to reference as I'm tasting through this and nosing and all that fun stuff. So maybe follow on. A lot of these notes I notice are very similar to whiskey notes. So again, Armagnac is a bourbon drinker's cognac. My experience with it has been incredibly oaky. A lot of similar notes, but there are some more fruit-forward notes on Armagnac that are definitely different than whiskey. So I do have a little bit of info about this Domaine du Cardinat. They have been in the Lalaine family for over a century. I'm reading this from K&L, by the way. Farmer and grandfather of the current proprietor, Patricia Singh, built the family home at the domain 100 years ago and cultivated the land long before that. In 1935, Joseph Lalaine's sudden death thrust Patricia's father, Camille, into the fields, forcing him to leave school and commit his life to the family domain. Just 4 years later, Camille planted the first vines at the domain, and his life was devoted to this patient passion. There he worked tirelessly to produce great brandy, but his marketing was almost entirely word of mouth, relying on tourists stumbling upon the domain and friends and family to return each year to place their orders. Camille's daughter, a certified viticulture and oenology specialist, I assume that's to do with wine, left the domain to pursue a career in marketing. She returned to work alongside her father a year before his death in 2010. Patricia made the bold decision to continue Camille's legacy, accompanied by her husband, Mr. Singh. We're lucky she did because their stocks are exceptional. Cardinat is the tiny little village Saragashis in the western edge of the Gers, directly in between the great Armagnac villages of Lenimagnan and Castex. Again, I don't speak French. The house style is big, bold, and driven by dense new wood. So that's the info I have. I actually tried to pull out the website for the brand. Unfortunately, the website seems to be down. It's been down all day. I've been checking it throughout the day to see if it would go back up. So that's all the info I have for the brand. Again, I bought these on my own. They weren't sent to me. I don't have anyone to reach out to. But we're gonna taste through it and see what we get in this. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of insight. Whiskey Nose is here. What's up, Marty? Good to see you. All right, so let's go ahead and nose this first one. Again, this is the 1995. This is the youngest one we have, 27 years old, which is the whole point of this stream. Everything's very, very old compared to whiskey. All right, let's give it a nose. Ooh, man, that immediately jumps out with those darker, older notes that I get on some very vintage whiskeys. Not just bourbon, not just scotch, but just whiskey in general. I mean, this is leather-bound books, old library, old cabinet, whatever you want to call it. It smells like something so vintage and so old. That's the first thing. It's got a bit of that like dusty leather quality to it. Old leather, not like new leather, not like fresh, mended, whatever you call it. Fresh made leather. This has been around for a while. Yeah, that's the biggest thing that jumps out. Is just that darker. I'm looking at the notes here. I see there's tobacco for sure. To me, it's definitely more in the leather category of that. This says cigar box. A little bit, but to me, it's still more of that natural, dark, rich. Sugar Kitty says the extreme oak is coming through. Absolutely. Yeah, that is such a vintage oak that this has been sitting in. Now, I don't know. It just says an oak barrel, so I don't know if this was. I assume it's a used oak. I don't know if it's wine cask or not. None of that info is necessarily on the bottle, but we do know it's old ass oak casks. Oh, that's delightful though. It's very. I'm getting a little bit of cedar. There's like a brightness in the wood, but it's all wood. To me, this isn't super fruity on the nose. Maybe it'll come through more on the palate, but on the nose, that is dark, rich, a little bit earthy. Yeah, it's hard to get beyond that, but maybe it'll open up a bit. Let's go ahead and give it a taste. Cheers. That's what's different. That's what really sets it apart from whiskey, because how dense and rich it is on the nose completely, I don't want to say counteracts because they work together. The palate is so much sweeter, so much fruitier. That's bright, but a little bit, well, I just saw someone's comment. I was going to say a little bit figgy. No, I do. I get some of those darker figgy notes. Maybe more of like a, let me get another sip of that. Definitely dried fruits. Maybe like, still a little vegetal. It has like apricot a little bit, but yeah, fig for sure. That's probably one of the most dominant notes on the palate. There is a little bit of a floral quality there, but I'm trying to pull out. I don't want to, dare I say rose? I know that's very different than the noses, the flavors we're getting more of, but it's more of like a light, delicate floralness that's kind of complemented with that fig, that dark, dried red fruit. And then the palate, that so smoky oak. I didn't say smoky's not the right word. That strong oakiness on the nose. It's on the back end of the palate, but really, I'm really surprised how much brighter this is on the palate. Yeah, the more I drink that, the more I can appreciate those lighter, delicate notes. I said rose. If I'm looking for those floral notes, it's still up there, bright, like rose or like violet or like, I don't know if those are like counter. Again, I don't usually refer to flowers in my tasting notes. I'm kind of looking at this tasting sheet to kind of see what feels right based on the palate. But yeah, there is a floral, like a very light floralness there. Really nice. Wow. That is so interesting. Man, I love exploring different spirits. If y'all don't know, I experiment a lot on this channel with different things, but this is no exception. This is really a really fun one, a really affordable one, especially if you are, mostly into whiskey, you want to kind of maybe branch out a little bit, but don't want to break the bank. The youngest one, how much should I pay for this one? Let's see. This was the 1995. Let's see. 1995 Cardinat. Let's see. I paid $90. So yeah, I paid $90 for this, $100 for the 32-year-old, and then $110 for the 38 years old. Now they have so many other expressions at different age statements. I just wanted to pick up the more vintage ones because they did get put up all at the same time. Thought they might go quick, but not really. They're all still available, which is really interesting. Zover says he likes leather and cedar notes. Me too, man. Sugar Kitty says the extreme oak coming through. Absolutely. Old ass oak, is that a technical term? It is on Bourbon Bites. Absolutely. Someone says, gotta try Calvados next. Calvados. I don't know if I've had it. I've had whiskeys finished in Calvados, but that's really interesting. James Taylor says, hit the like button. Yes, please do. If you're curious about this and other spirits and you want me to branch out and experiment more, of course, my bourbon and whiskey always still have my heart, but I love trying new things, exploring new flavor profiles, especially when it's something that's kind of from a different region, but a similar flavor profile to bourbon, like what we enjoy here in the US. Let's see, like, what do the French enjoy that's similar? So I really like it. Tony says, I also made it home from Dublin, but my suitcase full of whiskey didn't. Oh no. Oh, that's my worst nightmare. I'm so sorry. Good thing we're drinking Armagnac tonight. Do you mean it's lost? Like there's a chance it could appear? Or is it gone? Like, did it make it? Oh gosh, Tony, I'm sorry. That sucks. Hopefully, at least you made memories. I'm sorry. I tried to make it lighter, but there's nothing that can make that feel better. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, so we have the 1995 one. I love to try all three of these back to back, side by side. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour the other two, and we can kind of work our way through them. Because I do want to come back to that 1995. I'd love to see how it compares to the older expressions. Again, these are all from the same vineyard, the same vines, the same house. So they should theoretically be all aged in the same conditions, just a matter of different ages and vintages. All right, just to make sure I got the order. Ooh, I almost messed up. I almost poured the 95 one twice. They're supposed to deliver in the morning. That's great. I'm so glad to hear that. Gosh, you scared me there for a minute, Tony. Sugar Kitty says, just like brandies, these are another rabbit hole. So is Calvados and ciders with apples. I'm sure there's so much to distilled spirits. We get just a sampling of them when we stick to the basics here in the US. But as soon as you start going international, you could hit some really fun ones. James says, hope the suitcase comes to my house. Oh, I know. By the way, for those tech gurus on here who like to criticize my sound quality, just kidding, Donnie, I'm not streaming on Twitch tonight, so let me know if things have gotten better, because we suspected that could have been causing some of the delays that we were experiencing. So if the syncing is better, I won't do the Twitch dual stream moving forward. Just want to let y'all know. Donnie, I know you're probably looking out for that. All right, let's move on to the second one here tonight. This is the 32-year-old one. This one's 1 year older than I am, which is crazy. This is the 1990 expression. Now, this one comes in at 56% ABV. So I assume that these are probably bottled at cask strength, or at least near cask strength. Like I said, the first one was 50%. This one's 56%. And our oldest one of the night comes in at 58.5%. So they are going up in proof. No audio issues detected. Significantly better. Okay. You know what? I'll keep Twitch for the gaming. I'm glad to hear that. I will stick with this, but let me know if anything changes. All right, so let's go to the 1991, age 32 years. Now, this means this must have been bottled, so 92, and it's 32 years old. This must have been bottled a couple years ago, because, as you know, 1990 was not 32 years ago. Ooh. Okay, similar nose. I forget that the palate and the nose are so different. Yeah, so going back to the 95 and going to the 90. dare I say 90 is darker, richer, which I mean obviously makes sense, right? But if you go to the 95 directly on the nose, the 95, some of those sweeter figgy notes are more apparent on the nose comparatively to the 1991. Now that's because I know we've tasted it and I've kind of acclimated myself to that palate, but it's also when you have something to directly compare it to, you can maybe find a bit more of the notes. Doug says he has a 25-year-old Delord Bas Armagnac for about $80. Old tasting. Oh man, yeah. If a 25-year-old still has that age, Stacey, I imagine. Like we started at 27, we're only going up from there. So sounds like the pricing is about the same as what it is over here. So that's interesting. Swan said 56% is actually very high. Anything over 45% is getting up there for Armagnac. Well, that's part of the reason I bought it, honestly. Not to say I'm like a bit of a proof hound, but I do love me some higher proof whiskeys, and I guess that translates over to Armagnac as well. As soon as I saw we were starting at 50% tonight, I knew I had to do this as a live stream. So, maybe that's just me, but I love the higher proof stuff. I think it brings out more flavor. You can always add ice. You can always add water if you want to. Yeah, this is darker on the nose. Definitely more of the, it's weird because it's darker, but when you look for the wood notes specifically, more of that cedar note comes out. And I think cedar is typically like a brighter wood note, but it's really interestingly, yeah, that's all wood on the nose. Let's give it a try. Let's try the 1990. Cheers. So I got a chunk of something in that one. These are clean glasses, but I don't know. Almost like, 'cause sometimes when you get whiskey, like it has sediment in it. I was almost that, but I don't see anything, so maybe not. Maybe I'm just imagining it. But wow, that is dark. I mean, that jump in proof from 50 to 56 is pretty apparent. Wow, we're really jumping up here. I'm looking in the glass to see if I see anything else, but it must have just been like floating. Again, I literally just grabbed these from the wash, so they're definitely clean. That is such a rich, bold flavor. Interestingly enough, it doesn't linger into those lighter, fruitier notes that the 27 year did. This one stays in the darker realm of thing, which I almost wonder is like 32 years the sweet spot for staying dark and rich, whereas the 27 is still lighter and brighter. Because once you go to 32, you are off the deep end. You are like, if you're looking for brightness, you're below the 50%. Like imagine this is like a line chart. The first one, the 27-year-old, it's about like this. It kind of like goes into this brighter territory. This is like the threshold. This one kind of goes that way in terms of brightness. This is dark. This is rich. This is delicious. That's all I gotta say. Let's try it again. Yeah, going back to that flavor reel. I said reel again. This one brings a little bit more smokiness to it. It kind of has more of like a toasted oak characteristic to it. It could just be because it's older and that's how the oak is expressing itself after 5 additional years from what we just tried before. It also makes you wonder is like, did they maybe had harsher summers certain years, and that's why some of the older stuff is so much darker and richer? You never know. I don't know what the climate was in Armagnac during the 1990s, but I'm glad to taste it back to back. That's fun. Fred is in the house. What's up, Fred? Good to see you. Swan says, Fred, my resident expert, I assume we're talking about the Fred that's in the chat, seems to have diminishing returns after 35 to 40 years. 25 to 35 seems to be the sweet spot. An opinion, of course. Yes, totally. Yeah, I think this is a very drastically different Armagnac than the 27-year-old. 27 is way light. This one's dark. It makes me kind of curious of what the 38-year-old's going to be. Because both of these are delicious. I like them both. They're very different. On the nose, they're very similar. Palate is completely different. These are both great to have in a collection. Again, $10 apart. One was 90, one was 100. Now, your mileage may vary with prices. This is Southern California prices. We do seem to get a good bit of Armagnac, especially from K&L, so maybe we're a little privileged to it. But man, $100? This drinks like if this were a whiskey, this would be priced, not just on age, but just on flavor alone, this would be priced much, much higher than $100. Just saying. There's probably drinks equivalent to a $200 to $300 whiskey. But as Swan says, just my opinion, of course. But that's why y'all are here, for my opinion. So if you like it or you don't like it, doesn't matter. Hit the thumbs up button. Just kidding. But not really. Yeah, so we're actually, Fred, you missed us talking about this earlier. All I know that these were aged in oak barrels. It doesn't give you any info whether how much of that was virgin, how much of it was used, if there were different wine casks. I don't know that information about this particular one. I just know this is one of the higher regarded Armagnacs, because I know you would know in my local Discord group, whenever these went on sale, everyone was like, oh my God, that's actually like a really good brand. So I had to pick them up. Tony said, I believe the 90s in Armagnac were warm and cold with rain and sun. Very, very astute. Very astute opinion. Yeah, so that was a journey, but we're not done yet. We got one more Armagnac to taste, and then we're going to try a whiskey finished in Armagnac casks. So let's go to move on. I know we're moving a little quick here tonight, so we might end up at the after party a little bit early. Partially because I've been like, I don't know if it's because I'm sick or I have allergies, but like I've been like stopped up so much today, so I'm going to probably lose my voice by the end of the stream. So we're going to try to keep it moving so I don't lose it before the stream's over. So let's go ahead and move on to the 1984 expression. So this one is aged 38 years, 58.5% ABV. So really, really old stuff. Yeah. Wow. Here's the back if you're curious. It has some info about how it was imported. So just some extra info there. But yes, 58.5% ABV, 38 years old. This is more than half a decade older than me. And I'm pretty old, if you saw my thumbnail. Okay. Still that cedar on the nose. Cedar is the first thing that jumps out. Let me nose it compared to the 1990. These are a lot closer on the nose. I know that was a typo, but Donnie says, I was a sophomore in college in 1884. I'm sorry. Not going to make an old joke, but that's pretty funny. All right, nosing these are so similar side by side. I know y'all laugh at Donnie. These would be really hard to tell apart based on the nose. I would say the 1990 one has a bit of like more of the apricot note, which I'm familiar with that based on barrel seagrass. I do know more what that apricot note is. The 1880, there I go. The 1984 one, yeah, that's just dank old wood. I don't want to say dank because that sounds like gross, right? But just really a little bit mossy is kind of what I meant with the dank. It's like that wood is getting so old that it's growing a whole like ecosystem within itself. Whole different world. All right. I think Donnie caught his mistake there. What's up? What's up, Whiskey Dick? Y'all go check out Bill's YouTube channel. Bill is one of the OG Whiskey Tubers here. Also my fellow Dungeons and Drams player back when we did our campaign. He's still very active on the channel and the Discord, so y'all go check out Whiskey Dick and Dungeons and Drams. All right. Here we go. 38-year-old Armagnac. Cheers. Ooh. Okay. Oh. I'm having all these experiences in my mouth right now. So just thinking back to the comment y'all were saying, like how it's like diminishing returns after a certain age. I will say drinking this was a completely different experience than drinking the 27 and the 32. This one felt a little flat up front. It was just that dry oak was the only thing I really tasted. It wasn't until I got to the finish that I got some of those darker notes. It's almost like a honey rich kind of toffee note on the finish, which I really like. But up front, the beginning of mid palate were kind of not too exciting. Whereas the other ones like have been exciting throughout. This one's just kind of like, let me give it a second sip before I have that full opinion on it. Because that kind of surprised me how like lackluster the beginning of the palate was on this one. The proof is nice. but it does a vanishing act. That's weird. I don't think I've had anything that's done that. It hits the tip of your tongue with the proof, completely vanishes mid palate. I don't taste anything. Swallow. On the finish, it comes back. I feel the proof again. I feel the to me, it's more of like a sweeter note, like a honey, toffee. Still oaky. It has that oak characteristic that I really love about all the other two. But that's a whole different experience. I don't say it's my favorite. I like a bright mid palate. I like I love a good finish. This has the best finish of them all. But when it doesn't have the mid palate to accompany that, I feel like it's a little bit of a letdown. Now remember, these are only $10 apart, so you can buy them all if you can afford one of them. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you can afford one of them, you can afford any of them because they're only $10 apart each. Perry's here from This Is My Bourbon Podcast. What's up, Perry? Perry goes live 3 hours before me and goes on for 2 hours. I stopped in for a little bit today. Y'all go check out the replay of his stream. They'll just film something. Oh, very cool. Cannot wait to see what that's all about. Yeah, just getting caught up in the chat here. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Fred said my broad stroke thoughts on age ranges. Oh, there's a colon there. We gotta wait. We gotta wait till Fred types. All right, but let's work our way backwards now. We tried the oldest, middle, and youngest. Let's go back to the middle after trying the oldest, see how it compares. We're going back to the 1990s, or the 1990. This is the 32-year-old. Again, both of these older than me. I still feel ancient. As I said, whole different experience. This one's front, mostly mid palate. This one's oaky. It's still that darker, older oakiness. Less of the brightness of the 95, but it hangs out mid palate. Finish is a little shorter, but has a delicious mid palate. That's, to me personally, that matters more than a good finish. Lastly, let's go back to the 1995, the 27-year-old. Brighter. The mid palate's not as, it's so interesting how we're trying something from the same vineyard, the same Armagnac domain, and the flavor profiles are so different. If I were to describe, to me, the easiest way to describe the difference between these is based on where it sits on my palate. The 95 sits on the front of the palate, then a little bit on the back end. The 1990, all mid palate. That's where it hangs out. The 1984, nothing on the front, nothing on the mid, all on the back. So it's like all about whatever experience you like. If you like them all together, maybe we'll do a little blend. I mean, might as well, right? Let's blend them all together. Let's see if it hits all our palates. Hits all our palate points. I'm actually really curious to see how this blend does, because they all work really well in their own way. They just, to me, if I had to rank them, which y'all always are curious about my rankings, right? I think I would put the 1990 first, which is the 32-year-old, the 1995 second, which is the 27-year-old, and the 1984 last, which is the 38-year-old. Again, none of them are bad. I just think I would prefer to buy the other two over the oldest one. James says the bottle I have is vibrant, generous, features baked apples, oak, some toffee and vanilla with hints of tobacco toward the end. The finish is long, fat, and silky. I was going to say something inappropriate. I'm not going to say that. But that's good to hear. Fred says, do you get any of the forest floor notes on the oldest? So Fred, I nosed it and I got that. I almost like a bit of like a mossy kind of oak. It's got a little bit of that earthy quality to it. Got a little bit of the palate on the 1995, the 27-year-old. Nothing on the nose though. It was all on the nose of the oldest one that got that. Didn't get on the palate. To me, on the palate just was so flat until it got to the finish, and then I got those darker, richer, oaky, or not oakier, darker like toffee noses. Toffee notes. There we go. I love a good finish, don't we all? Hey, nothing wrong with a good finish, but you got to have some nice foreplay before you get to the finish. If it's all finish and no foreplay, then like it's fun, but the experience doesn't last long enough. You got to have foreplay, little bit of like, I don't know what the equivalent of mid palate is, like when you're really feeling it, and then you gotta finish strong. So let's see if the blend that we did completes all those phases of sipping whiskey. Ooh, I do like the nose on that though. It's surprisingly that the youngest one brought some of those more fruit forward notes there. Yes, let's get rid of the word rancio because that sounds like rancid, and I don't like that word. Interesting. I do love that. I think this is the best nose of all of them when they're all combined. All right, got to give it a try. This is the blend of all three. Cheers. It's so interesting because if I feel like it accomplished what I thought it would accomplish. It does hit all of the flavor points, the tip of the tongue, mid palate, and finish. But I don't think it excels at any of those. I do feel it across the palate. The experience is better just drinking along. Flavor wise, it doesn't beat any of those at either of those points. So blending them is probably not the best solution. If you do like the experience of it, yes. But other than that, yeah, probably don't recommend that. Whiskey Pair in the house. He said, "Bummer, I only put up to 84." Hey, no worries. I mean, the 84 is good. The finish on the 84 is good. I would be happy to share with you the other two samples of them. I know Whiskey Pair is going to be joining me for a live stream or two here on the channel if we get selected for Matt Madness. We don't know. I put my audition in. If y'all saw it over on my YouTube Shorts /TikTok /Instagram, the Cliffy Bus may be making a return. And if so, Whiskey Pair here is going to be helping me with some blind tastings. Should be a lot of fun. Gotta have foreplay to relax those muscles. Yeah, you gotta open it up. The easier it is to go down, the more you can take at once. Don't be selfish. Don't finish fast. Really to constitute the nutty flavor peculiar to some fortified wine, a sherry Madeira. Interesting. Would have never known that. So Donnie says since his brandy was in sherry cask, he is getting some of that note to it. Interesting. Oh, I can train either way. That's what I love. I love a good blind flight here on the channel. Thank you, Tony. I'm glad somebody appreciated it. By the way, if you thought that was good, you should check out my Instagram story promoting this stream because Meemaw and Pawpaw made an appearance and they were not happy. So that's all I'll say. Check out my Instagram story. Yeah, this was really good. But lastly, I want to do one last thing before we wrap up. Again, I know this was going to be a shorter stream. I want to try a whiskey that's finished in Armagnac casks. Just to kind of see if I can pick up some of those figgy notes, some of those oakier cedar notes. So let's go ahead and try this one. Now, I actually did just review this on last week's stream, so apologies for the repetition here. This is the Dark Arts Dank Arts Blunt to Blend. This is a rye whiskey finished in Madeira and Armagnac cask. So it's not straight up Armagnac, but it is Madeira cask as well. I was just curious, going back to this, having tried these now, can I pick up on some of those notes that I really enjoyed about this Armagnac? If not, whatever. But I was just curious. I was like, oh yeah, I literally just reviewed that. I'd love to kind of do a little comparison. So this is the Dark Arts Blunt Blend Mix, which of course is a rye whiskey. We're back in whiskey territory. On the nose, it's whiskey on the nose, very, very much so. I will say some of those, the notes from the 27 year are kind of here. Yeah, the 27 does smell kind of similar. It has that I want to say fig Newton more on this one. It's almost more of the shortbread and fig note. The Armagnac didn't give me the breading, like a fig Newton, the pastry. The Armagnac didn't really have that. It was just the fig part of it. But on the rye one, it's bringing some of those fig Newton notes. Let's try the Dark Arts. Cheers. James says any anise flavors on yours. On the Armagnacs, I'll go back to my blend in a second. I want to try this real quick, but I didn't detect that initially, but I'd love to go back and look for that specifically. All right, let's try the not figgy pudding. I noticed I said figgy. I meant fig Newton. All right, this is the Dark Arts. Okay. I feel it's funny because this is the same proof basically as what I've been drinking all night. It's really fun to go from high proof Armagnac to high proof whiskey because you feel like you're in the same territory. They're not that far apart. So I really do encourage you guys to pick up some of these higher proof ones. Maybe not necessarily this one, but the higher proof Armagnacs, they drink, like, experience-wise, so similar to whiskey. This is different because I can detect the rye, but like the overall mouthfeel experience and all that, very similar. Good, but different enough that I feel like I can't say I fully get those Armagnac notes, but I do see the influence. I see the fig influence, a little bit of that toasty oak influence as well. That's really good. I mean, I love the Dark Arts. I've said that during last week's stream. Dark Arts is killing it with their releases. I'm surprised that I do pick up some of those notes that I really like about the Armagnac in here. But before we go, let's look for the anise notes in the, or anise. I don't know if some people say anise, some people say anise, some people say something else. Let's go ahead and try that. I know what you're talking about. Let's see if I can find that. When I'm looking, this is the blend where I blended them all together. On the nose, yes. I was gonna almost say more like a clove, like a. And I say clove because I have more experience with that. I do that more in like an old fashioned with some cloves in the orange. I've seen that before. Really fun way to do an old fashioned. I would say to me it's not much anise. It's not really that licorice flavor. It's, if I'm looking for a spice specifically in that flavor profile, to me this particular release is more of a clove. But it's still good. Fred says, to clarify on higher proof, oftentimes cask strength is in the 80s. I assume you mean 80 proof, like 40%? I think that's kind of what Swan was saying earlier. He's saying that these are typically 40 to 50%, or 40 to 45%. These are all higher proof. But yeah, I mean, these might be different expressions, but I still really enjoy them, and I bought them because of the proof. So I was leaning towards that. Tony said he poured a J. Henry finished Armagnac. Oh, fun. Finished Armagnac. I don't think I've had that one, but good to hear. Fred says yes, but it can vary widely. Gotcha. And James agrees where I get cedar. Yeah, cedar to me is the most dominant wood note in all of these. Cool. Well, this was so much fun. Let me know if there's any other spirits that you guys want me to review outside of whiskey. I always really do enjoy trying new things, especially when it's kind of whiskey adjacent, like these are. And James says, to each their own, like how you take your whiskey. Agreed completely. Well, if you guys did enjoy the stream, make sure to hit the thumbs up again before you leave. If you are new here, please hit the subscribe button and join us over on Discord, where we hang out, talk whiskey, talk video games, talk travel, all the fun things that makes this community so great. We're about to head over to Discord to do our after party hangout for everyone on Patreon. Everyone $10 and up on Patreon. Just to clarify, disclaimer. Again, huge shout out to our newest patron, Devin. So glad to have you there. Hope to see you at the hangout. And until then, I will see you guys next week for a live on-site tasting of a brand called, I don't want to mess it up, so give me 1 second. A brand called Knox and Dobson. They do bottled whiskey cocktails. They are based out of Pasadena, California, which is very close to me. They do some really fun, interesting whiskey cocktails, interesting takes on whiskey cocktails. I'll actually be joining them live on location from their spot up in Pasadena next week. Hopefully everything goes good with the lighting and the internet and all that stuff. That's always I get so anxious about that with these live streams, but I do it for you guys. Hopefully it's a good time. Worst case scenario, we do it from our phone and we still interview them when we do a tasting, have a good time. So make sure to subscribe and look out for that. Should be a lot of fun. Might be the best bottled cocktail of the year. We'll see. All right, y'all. Cheers. I'll see y'all next Thursday. And until then, this has been Bourbon Bites Whiskey Reviews with an 80s twist or an Armagnac twist tonight. Cheers, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.